freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
I want to get the language right.
The government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
It is not enough for me to stand here before you tonight and condemn riots. It would be morally irresponsible for me to do that without at the same time condemning the contingent, intolerable conditions that exist in our society. These conditions are the things that cause individuals to feel that they have no other alternative than to engage in violent rebellions to get attention. And I must say tonight that a riot is the language of the unheard. Those are the words of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968, less than 1 month before he was assassinated. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio, April 28, 2015. Hope you're doing really good out there tonight. The country is definitely in upheaval. Go ahead and introduce our wonderful producer, Shannon Madden. How you doing tonight, Shannon?
I'd be doing a lot better if we weren't talking about the things we have to talk about tonight, and I'll just leave it at that.
That's the truth. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead before we jump into this, because I think everybody knows the topic at hand is Baltimore.
My heart goes out to all the people in Baltimore tonight. They're under curfew. National Guard boots are on the ground. It's a war zone.
It is. It's definitely getting loud out there. And you know, I'm going to go over our statistics real quick like we do every show. Just kind of rush through them real quick. And some of them will lead us into what's going on right now. 65 beheadings in Saudi Arabia this year, the Allied of America. We also have 119 homicides and 653 people shot in a relatively gun-free Chicago. So how are those laws working out? Now, the two most vital statistics, really for the evening and for the topic at hand tonight, there have been 38 police officers that have died in the line of duty so far this year. 38, and those are not all, violent interactions. We're talking car crashes. We're talking heart attacks. And we have 381 Americans killed by police so far since January 1st, 2015. There's
and counting.
There's an absolute epidemic going on in this country right now, and I don't know what to say anymore. This is so far beyond anything we've seen. It's only going to get louder. The riots get a little bit bigger every time, and it's funny. They were talking on a corporate news channel tonight, interviewing a police officer, and they asked the police officer, do you think that police in the United States are institutionally racist? And his argument was, we're absolutely not racist. We kill way more white people every year than we do black people. Like, that was his argument. We kill way more white people. We're not violent thugs. We're not killing people, this, that, and the other. No, we kill way more white people. Don't get it wrong. We're killing everybody indiscriminately.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without, it does not matter, and we touched on this earlier before we broadcast tonight. It doesn't matter if you're white. It doesn't matter whether you're black. It doesn't matter whether you're Asian, or in the case of Mr. Patel, North Alabama, Indian. It doesn't matter whether you're old. It doesn't matter whether you're young. There's only one thing that I can think of that links all of these people that have been murdered by the police, and that's the fact that they are not wealthy.
They're not wealthy. You nailed it. They're not rich. They don't have money in their pocket. That's the one thing that everybody has in common. White, black, green, or gray, all these people are pretty much poor or lower middle class. These are the people that are getting killed. And nobody seems to realize that that's the one common thread in all of this.
The sick part about that is that if you stand and look at it like that, then you're looking at gentrification through socioeconomics. That's absolutely horrible. And it's bad enough for, insult to injury. We've done everything that we can economically to oppress these people and make these people suffer. So if they just won't go away, we'll just go ahead and send our troops, put boots on the ground, and just go ahead and just snuff them out.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing more and more in our inner cities. And that's what we just saw in Baltimore.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It goes back to the King quote, or even we had a story up today about it on Anti-Media about the vice president for the Baltimore Orioles. This is way bigger than just a couple of incidences. I tell you what, Shane,
and that's what we talk about on this program every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell you what, we've already been getting quite a few callers already in for the night. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first one here. Area code 682. Welcome to Anti-Media. How you doing this evening?
Hey, man, I'm doing all right. How about you, man?
Man, can't complain. So,
yeah.
What's your take on this whole Baltimore situation?
Man, I think it's fucking crazy, dude. I really do.
Yeah, do you see a resolution to this without it getting violent? Do you think people are just going to go away? I'm sitting here watching a split screen right now, and the streets are just filled with cops. And it's almost like they're inciting it.
Yeah, I don't ever think it's going to stop. I believe that they should just stand up for peace instead of, crimes,
Yeah.
What they're doing is wrong, definitely. Burning down a CVS, dude. Come on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing here. And, but at the same time, I understand the frustration. And I think there's protesters, and I think there's people who let their frustrations get the best of them. And I think there's people that are just looting. I think there's a combination of everybody. And
definitely. There's opportunism going on there. There's always, whenever you see a situation like this, there's always going to be opportunism. And it's not just the people looting out on the streets. Let's get that straight right now.
Yeah. And I don't believe it's just because they killed Freddie Gray. I believe that they're rampaging on the streets for just attention, or just
I don't know if it's that. I think a lot of it is built up frustrations, and I really appreciate you calling in tonight. But I think a lot of it is built up frustrations over Eric Garner, Tamir Rice. The list goes on and on and on. We could sit here, we could be here all night if we're just going to name the names off people that have been killed by police. Like I said earlier, 381 people have been killed by police so far just this year alone. But as far as the whole division of everything, and the way the media wants to distort stuff, Shannon, I don't know if you heard about this, but they've been talking about it all out in the media, and the Pyrus and the Bloods were, for the less street-savvy person, Pyrus or Crips. They're talking about how they've joined forces, and they are going to go out and shoot cops. The gangs have joined forces. We're just going to go out there and shoot cops. And so, and the story right now is actually on freethoughtproject.com, and it's an interview that they ran in Baltimore last night with members of the Bloods and the Crips, and in the room together as one group, talking about, we went out there to stop people from being violent. We went out there to help protect these businesses in our community. We need to understand that this is a time to come together. This is a time that we don't need violence, because it's making the cause look stupid to just go out there and break stuff for no reason when there's a real legitimate issue here. And all that does is detract and take away from what we're sitting here trying to talk about, and the justice for Freddie Gray. And really the justice for all the other Americans too, because this is a bigger issue.
This is a much bigger issue, and it's much larger than Freddie Gray, and it's directly tied to the socioeconomic problems that are going on with inner cities like Baltimore. Have you ever seen The Wire before? That's a pretty accurate description. I know it's dramatized in Hollywood, but it's still a fairly accurate description of what goes on in those inner city neighborhoods, and that's not a situation that people choose to be in. That's an environment, unfortunately, and everyone has a chance to rise above, but anybody that grows up in an inner city neighborhood and grows up under those socioeconomic issues, you're pretty much cut off from the knees at birth.
Absolutely.
And we both know that.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm going to go ahead and jump to another caller right now, area code 661. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight.
My name is Nicholas Nunez. I'm calling from Bakersfield.
Fantastic. So what is your take on the entire Baltimore situation right now?
Well, it runs a lot deeper than just, a couple of cops killing somebody. It runs a lot deeper than that. Ultimately, I believe it's a utopia versus a dystopia. Our government's a bunch of sellouts and corporate lap puppies to, an elite group that's much higher than all of us. They have resources and they've attained a lot of power. So, they're a lot higher than us. Anyway, I believe that these deaths that are just happening are just starting to peel back the eyes of American citizens to what our government is actually capable of doing against us. They're already using our National Guard. When they make dystopian movies like The Hunger Games, Divergent, Elysium, The Matrix, all the way back to the 1970 movie The Network, all these dystopian movies just have put it into my head, for so long. And then on top of that, the mainstream media just fearmongers all the American citizens every single day to get them to, believe in whatever they have, whatever they're pitching at the moment, whether it's, a war in the Middle East or, whether it's the Bloods and the Crips come together. They want us to be, segregated, and they want racism happening, because while that's happening, they're attaining all of our resources. And then next thing you know, SpaceX has put, colonies on Mars, and we're stuck on Elysium.
Right. And
that's absolutely right. They're doing a magic trick in front of us and reaching their other hand back behind where our wallet is and grabbing our money out. And that's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm only 20 years old, man. I have a long life ahead of me, and, I have benefits set up so I don't even have to work, man. I don't have to work at all, not even a day in my life. But, I see everything that's happening, and I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, our government doesn't even let us live off the land. It's illegal to collect rainwater. It's illegal for raw milk, but yet you can fuck, a goat or a horse in, all 50 states. That's fine.
Yeah,
sorry for the language.
I think it's still only legal in like 30-something, 38 states. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
But I appreciate your call, man. Thanks so much for calling in tonight.
Thank you.
But, he brings up an absolutely great point is earlier, too, they had your favorite, Shannon, Geraldo, was on.
Oh, yeah.
He was interviewing a guy named Malik Shabazz, and he was the former head of the new Black Panther Party. So this kind of goes back to how the media distorts everything, and they only want you to believe things in certain situations and scenarios. So they're sitting there watching these guys throw bottles back and forth in the street, and he looks at Geraldo and he says, look, it's like the Israelis and the Palestinians. The Israelis and the Palestinians. And, you know, you would think you would just get this crazy reaction from Gerardo, and this is on Fox News now, and you know that's the channel that is never, ever, ever, ever allowed to say anything negative in regards to Israel.
Oh, absolutely.
And so he said this is like the Israelis and the Palestinians watching this, and Gerardo looked at him, and without blinking, he goes, "Oh, so you're insinuating that the cops are like an occupying force?" The irony to that is, if you would have said that Israel was an occupying force in any other context, the heads at Fox News, they would have exploded. They would have exploded. Oh, yeah. I mean, Max Kaiser tells a story when he worked for the BBC. He says he's worked for news channels over the world. The only people to ever tell him that he's not allowed to say something and censor him was the BBC over Israel. And they said, you're not allowed to talk about Israel, period.
Yep, Israel's off the table.
It's off limits. But tonight, Gerardo was like, oh, they're an occupying force. You couldn't say that if that's what was in the news. Not on that channel, you couldn't.
No, you can't.
But it sure just subtly got slid in there tonight.
One other statistic that I didn't get a chance to share with you while I was in the middle of doing my research for tonight's show. You know, the city of Baltimore, they've shelled out $5.8 million between 2011 and 2014 for judgments and settlements related to police brutality.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, and we're talking about a 3-year period, and that doesn't even begin to cover the cost of the litigation, the judges and the lawyers and the taxpayer expense for it to go to court. That's a lot of money.
Well, I don't know if you saw the story we put up earlier about the Baltimore mayor, Stephanie Rawlings Blake. Okay, so as you know, you well know, you've seen her all in the news since Saturday because she made her statement about, oh, we're going to give everybody room to kind of destroy stuff. And they've just been harping on that statement.
Oh, no, she clarified her statement. That's not what she meant. Yes.
Right. But at the end of the day, now clearly it was a stupid thing to say. I mean, it showed just...
Absolutely.
It just showed lack of judgment and wisdom and just horrible, poor leadership. But she said a phrase in a press conference. She didn't physically go out and do anything. And then we're talking about these riots, we talk about protesters, we talk about any of it, and then we're getting away from what actually caused this entire situation. The entire reason there's people out on the streets is not because Freddie Gray was killed necessarily, because you think that's the first person that's died by the hands of a Baltimore police officer this year? We've got 381 in the country so far, just for this year. So what was the reason that there was, such hype and all these people took to the streets? It's the fact that nobody knows what happened. All of a sudden, he's getting in the back of a van. He's arrested because he has a switchblade. He gets in the back of the van. The next thing you know, his neck's been snapped. His spinal cord's been severed. And everybody's like, oh, I don't know what happened. And this lady, on December the 2nd, actually, vetoed a bill that would have required Baltimore City police officers to have body cameras on them. That would have rectified this entire situation. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now. We wouldn't be having these riots right now if one of those 6 officers had a body camera on him, because we would know exactly what happened. And we wouldn't.
Well, and they had the body camera on them and didn't turn it off, because we've seen quite a bit of that lately as well, too.
We have, but there needs to be repercussions for that as well. If you have a body camera on, you better have it on. And if you shoot somebody and it's accidentally off, well, you just, that's just as bad as admitting guilt right there to me. Because you're trying to.
I think it's worse.
Yeah.
I think it's worse.
Absolutely.
Because, you can't, if you're not wearing a body camera, you can't claim that it was turned off because there's no body camera to begin with. And Stephanie Rawlings, even though the city of Baltimore's counselors all unanimously favored this bill, it was a political move on her behalf, and I'm still unclear as to whether it was with the police union or who it was with. But there were some dissenting voices about this that reached her ears, and she, by herself, vetoed this bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
By herself.
And it's with everything in politics. It gets real murky as to why she did it, because she's sitting here claiming, well, I want everybody to have cameras. I want everybody to have cameras, but I'm not signing this bill. It was a 2-page bill. We're not talking about one of these 140-page bills that go through Washington and they're trying to, arrest everybody in the middle of the night while saying we're just giving kids candy. It was a 2-page bill. There was, no crazy stuff involved. She was just doing it out of spite because she has beef with the city council in Baltimore. That's real obvious.
I'm just kind of curious how many body cameras they could have bought for $5.8 million.
Yeah.
Just kind of sitting there doing the math on that real quick.
Exactly.
Because, I don't know. It would behoove me if I worked for the city of anywhere. Once I had my first or second police brutality settlement that I had to dole out, to take whatever steps necessary I could take, being a person in charge of the police or in charge of the person who's in charge of the police per se. And I would do whatever I could to make sure that an incident like that happened never.
Oh,
Never. But here we have, you go back and research it. I actually got my information from the Baltimore Sun piece, done in 2014. They go back and take a look at some of the anecdotes and some of the stories. I believe one of the anecdotes was like an 87-year-old woman, or what? It was a woman well into her 80s. Was one of them.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and jump to another caller right now, area code 209. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight. Area code 209.
My name is Ruben. I'm calling from Galt, California.
How you doing tonight? So
I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. So what's your take on this entire Baltimore situation here?
I think police brutality is a big problem in this country, but I don't think they should be rioting like they are. I think they should protest differently and bring attention to police brutality instead of just mobbing the streets and attacking random people.
Right, and I agree with that, because I think there are people there that are just, trying to be advantageous just because, for whatever reasons, for their economic situations, maybe they're just bad people and selfish that just want to go smash a window. I don't know their reasons for doing it, but I think everybody with that uses common sense can agree that's not the way to activate change. But at the same time, and here's kind of the flip side about it, and this is where you kind of get into a gray area, is you have people that protest peacefully all across the country for whatever reason they're protesting, and they get no media attention. And you get some people breaking some windows, and all of a sudden the whole world just is on top of it. So that is not saying advocating the craziness and the chaos, but where's the line? What do you do? Because obviously just walking down the street marching with a sign doesn't get anybody's attention.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, maybe they could have done a raid at the police department or something, but anything but attacking just random families on the side of the road and stuff.
Right. Now,
absolutely. I mean, violence should never be set violence. I mean, that's never gotten us anywhere, but further into chaos.
Yeah, true. That's true.
Well, I tell you what, you got any more thoughts on anything else while we got you on the line?
No, I just came to listen.
Oh, fantastic. I really appreciate your call tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, Shannon, I mean, what do you think the answer is here? Because if you're too quiet and too peaceful, nobody cares. But if you're too loud, you become a thug and a looter. And there has to be a middle ground here. What is
just by us having this conversation over any kind of mass media, us having this conversation we're automatically going to be branded as, well, okay, yeah, that's those conspiracy theory guys, or they're all about anarchy and chaos. No, I'm all about freedom. We've gotten so far away from the original intent of our founding fathers coming to America and starting this country to begin with. And let's go ahead and bear in mind, it wasn't done. It wasn't done with the utmost righteousness and the utmost justice. But it is what it is. We're all here. And they're of course among the African Americans that were brought here against their will in chains. And we can't do anything about the past. Unfortunately, the past is done. All we can do is continue to strive toward a better future with all of us clasping hand in hand against this. But unfortunately, peace, love, and all that other stuff. You're absolutely right. Just standing out in the street and holding a sign is not doing anything. It's not doing anything anymore. There was a point in time in our civilization where we could do things like that. We could make a difference. It's kind of gotten a little bit more where Gandhi had to go through, where, there's going to be these protests where people finally are just going to get to the point where, look, I know if I throw a brick at the CBS window, I'm going to go to jail and possibly get beaten up on the way there. Yeah. Or I can just stand here and just get beaten.
Yeah.
And just get tear gas thrown at me and just get tasered and eventually get shot when the rubber bullets won't work.
And
that's what's going to have to happen. We're going to have, and really, it's going to be a situation where people are going to have to just openly protest and lay down arms and just openly protest with cameras rolling for everybody to finally wake up and see exactly what's going on. That's what happened in Birmingham. That's what happened in India. That's what's happened through all of the great protests throughout the human civilization. That depending on your religious leanings, the story of Jesus.
Right. But at the same time, and I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Manny. How you doing tonight, Manny?
Hey, how you doing? I'm out here listening to you guys. It's great show, stuff like that. Well, let me tell you from an activist point of view. Number one, I've been an activist 29 years, a lot of media attention, and I never have broken a window, done any violence and stuff like that. So it just depends who the organizers are, how committed you are. People that the media knows, they're going to cover you because they know you're doing it for the right reasons. Now, these guys are doing a disservice to the 10,000 people that were protesting nicely over there in Baltimore. When you got these people, just rioting and stuff like that, those are not activists, they're not protesters. They're just finding a reason. They don't give a rat's ass about Freddie Gray. They just find a reason to go and damage. They would damage it anyway for another reason and stuff like that, So it's disrespectful and stuff like that. Because, if they were really serious, how come they don't riot when a black woman gets killed or a sister gets killed, whatever,
Right.
Another thing, with the Crips and the Bloods, that's beautiful and dandy. We always talk about cops putting on propaganda and the use of propaganda. How do we know the Crips and the Bloods are not doing their own propaganda? And I don't mean to disrespect them when I say that. My point is this, is if the Crips and the Bloods really wanted, something positive, why are we not mad because we're killing each other? Mexicans are killing blacks, the Crips are killing the Bloods are killing, and the Sureños are killing, people, like the Mexican gangs, the, brother, whatever, it's crazy. Why are we not uniting? It's almost like, it's almost like waiting for 200 people to get killed in a busy intersection before somebody decides to put a stop. Why did we have to wait to this moment? Why are not, the leaders inside the system need to be paying attention to the grassroots and stuff like that? You knew what was coming. So why don't you basically prepare for it? Because one of the things I will tell you is that I love to see those. There was I call them the 300 people there because they had 300s on their shirts. They're out there to try to, keep this violence from erupting. The sister, the family of the Grays, they don't want this. They're disrespecting Freddie Gray, by doing that. That's not what he stood for, I'm sure, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so this is...
I tell you what, Manny, I'm going to stop you real quick. We've got a special guest calling in right now that I really want to get her opinion on everything that's going on right now in Baltimore. Miss P.M. Beers, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Noah, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So I hadn't gotten into it yet because you're kind of the authority figure here. You were the one that wrote the story. But I tell you what, before we even get into that, tell everybody, kind of your thoughts on Baltimore and kind of your background before we get into all that.
Okay, well, I've been live streaming protests since January 2012. I got into activism through Occupy, and then when that kind of ended, I just kept still doing coverage of activism, and I do a lot of broadcasts from my cell phone, and I usually try to go to the one that's going to have the most police violence, and I'm pretty good at predicting police violence because I've seen a lot of it. So even as far back as December 2011, that's the first time I saw cops provoking riots. And I don't know if the cops are just stupid or if this is something that they intentionally do. It doesn't matter. This is what happens. You have a calm group of protesters, and it's happened so many times, and I've documented it again and again and again. And even last night in Los Angeles, same thing happened. You have a calm group of protesters, everything's really low-key, and then cops show up. A disproportionate number of cops will show up. And when they show up in riot gear, they look really scary. And then they just they don't really communicate. They don't give an order. They just start arresting people. And you see people getting arrested for no apparent reason, and people start getting outraged because that's the natural reaction. And then the crowd gets agitated. And the more that the police are present, and the more cops are present and having the riot gear on, it agitates the crowd. And it's just,
right.
It's so frustrating because I just see it again and again and again. And if the cops weren't even present at the protest, everything would have been cool.
And that's the thing. I don't think people realize that as soon as the cops show up and there's protesters and the media shows up, and then there's all this, this pressure on people, and people start getting nervous and they start getting jittery and things start kicking off. It even happened in Ferguson. The riots didn't start off immediately after they made the announcement. People were just standing in front of City Hall, and the next thing you know, the cops go down there, and then it kicks off. It's always,
I mean, what they having a vigil, some respectful, mourning of Mike Brown, and then riot cops showed up? I mean, isn't that how it all kicked off?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we're sitting here talking about Baltimore, and you wrote a fantastic piece for the website today. Tell everybody kind of about that and how that kind of ties in pretty much exactly what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, so I was just watching Twitter yesterday, and that's basically, if I'm not there with my eyes on the ground getting the news, I'll get the news from Twitter, and there's some people on Twitter that you can really trust. And then, because whatever's on TV, that's a lie. I've proven it so many times. So I just sit there and watch Twitter, and I'm watching Twitter, and I'm seeing oh look, here's some high school kids. They're having a little protest, and then the same thing exactly happens. The cops just start randomly snatching people, and the kids are getting riled up, and it escalated to the point where cops are throwing rocks at these kids. It was crazy. But yeah, it was the exact same scenario.
Yeah, and
why were the cops even there? Well, there was this excuse, this lie that there was this gang alliance to take out cops. That was a total lie. Same thing happened in LA with Cibo the Rapper. Same thing. Cibo the Rapper is Azal Ford's cousin, and Azal Ford was shot by LAPD 2 days after Mike Brown. So, when we're talking about riots, let's compare LA. Same thing happened to Ferguson. Same thing happened. Ferguson, they started burning stuff up, and I'm not saying go burn stuff up, but I'm not going to condemn what works because there's been a lot of change in Ferguson, and nothing's really changed in LA at all.
Yeah, and that's what we were kind of hitting on earlier, and that's kind of like, what's the answer for all this? Because, I'm definitely not saying go out there and destroy some innocent person's property because, you're just making some person that had nothing to do with you're getting away from what originally caused this, and you're hurting some innocent person in their property, but at the same time...
But the impact is that the people in power are getting scared. And when you stand in the corner with a permit and a sign and get permission from the police that you're protesting against, that doesn't do anything.
That doesn't do anything.
It doesn't scare the people in power. There's so many good quotes that you're not going to get the people in power to give you what you want by appealing to their morality. Right. You have to scare them. And that's what works. And I cannot condemn what works.
But I will say this, and this is, for me, and I'm not advocating anybody do any of what I'm about to say, but for me, it's like, I do have a problem if you go and just, loot some liquor store. But, okay, there's police cars on the street. Those are taxpayer, those are paid for with tax dollars. The people on those cars. You're mad at the system, the people you pay your tax money to. If you're going to have an outlet, would you not think that it would at least make a little more sense for your outlet to be the police station?
I was thinking about like how irrational it is, and but then when you think about, a lot of it is very rational, but like when you've been abused and abused and abused, this is human nature. When you finally strike back, it's not rational. And wouldn't it be great if we could rationally, logically plan? But riots aren't planned. Right. It's a human nature. It's to be expected, appropriate response. Even though, I don't know if appropriate is the right word, but predictable. It's how we are.
And here's something that I find very ironic as well is, we go and look back at our history, and these same people, Tea Party people, where did they get their name from? The Boston Tea Party. Well, what was the Boston Tea Party? These people went and just, destroyed all this private property, basically.
It was a riot.
And that was okay. That was okay.
Yeah.
We look at that in our history, and those guys were heroes. But you see it today in another context, and those people are villainized.
And gay pride. Gay pride is actually celebrating a riot.
Right. I didn't actually know that. I saw you had posted that earlier, and I did not know that.
Yeah, I just happened to have some fabulous gay roommates when I was young, and they're just like, okay, you're gonna live in our house, you're gonna watch this documentary, and you're gonna learn all this stuff.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me. And I think even with that, or with Baltimore, or with anything we're talking about, the media they confuse all this information for people, and they can literally say anything because they're in a suit, in a studio, on camera, and people just believe it. Well, that's the truth now because this one person in the studio said it. And I think people don't know that history, or they don't know this other history because a guy in a suit doesn't tell them. So, that's not true. If that was true and important, they would tell me on TV. And I think that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, but also another point is that, if you look at every riot that I'm aware of was started by cops, or caused by cops, or triggered by cops, or was a result of action by cops.
Right. But while absolutely I believe that to be true, we're talking about most people aren't in Baltimore right now. So all they can see is they get their interpretation of that riot through the media. And for them,
yeah, definitely. And if you're watching on TV, you don't see how calm it was before the cops came.
Right. And that's what's so scary is how, these 6 corporations that own all these thousands of media outlets and basically, 3 major news networks, 4 major news networks. I mean, does anybody watch CBS anymore? I don't think they do. They're dictating everything to everybody, whether it's Fox, MSNBC, or CNN, And that's it. Those 3 channels are telling, the average middle American what to think. And that's your perception of what's going on up there, whichever, view you subscribe to, whether it's MSNBC or Fox News, it's still this very narrow view, and you don't get the bigger picture. That's Shannon. He got really mad.
What happened?
Let me say hi to Sister PM Beers and stuff like that. Been supporting, and I hope everybody supports her for doing her job. Trying to put PM Beers and her partner in jail for doing her job. That's what she's out there for. And these cops are really picking up PM Beers. I just want to say hi to you, and our support is still with you all the way. Okay.
Yeah, we just lost. We're trying to get it right back now, Manny. But so.
Oh, we lost her?
Yeah, we lost her. I tell you, we got another caller calling in real quick. That's
Okay, well, let me just tell you, basically, on perspective, basically, this is what I was trying to say to you. When it comes to riots, the wrong people, get hurt. This is my problem with the riots. All Sunday, it was black against white. Why are we picking on white people all Sunday? Just because for instance, I'm going to tell you something. The rioters, and people say, well, it's on our nature to be rioters, and Manny, how come you never get pissed off? You've been an activist 29 years. I am appalled about stuff that happens. I'm not happy with the system. I'm not happy. But you know what? If I was a person that had hate and I believe in Martin Luther King and Gandhi and Dalai Lama, stuff like that, you know what? If there's anybody that should be pissed off, you know what? That means I should come and bomb the United States, because then if the United States took Mexico, Mexico, basically, you took it away from us. You know what I mean? Texas should be ours. And yeah, you think I'm happy? No, I'm not. But am I going to go bomb everybody in Texas? That's not a solution. Violence is never a solution. Now, if anybody should be pissed off at the system, and I don't see them out there, it's Native American Indians, because we treated the Native American Indians so bad it's not even funny.
Yeah.
So, okay?
You absolutely just nailed it on the head. Absolutely. I think we've got Patty back, but I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and take area code 830. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight.
Hey, what's up, man? It's Cassius.
Cassius, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just following this Baltimore stuff.
Yeah, so what's your take on everything that's going on out there?
Well, I think that some unprecedented unity is being formed between, people that, this unity has been waiting to be formed for so long. I think this is just further cementing what was established late last year with the activist movements in America to stop, all this police brutality and shit. And I think people this time are connecting the dots to the connection about the entire federal government and the entire issue, not just police brutality, but it seems it just popped off, so much harder this time. And it seems more educated, more quickly, tightly knit,
I agree with that. And I think a lot of it, does have to do with what PM was talking about earlier, was the social media and websites like Free Thought Project, Anti-Media, and the work of people that, we try to do. I'm not saying we're always perfect in what we do, but I think we're at least trying to, keep our ear to the ground and get the real information out there.
There's a really established infrastructure that we have now, and it's encouraging other people to, make their own infrastructure too. And now there's an ideological foundation for this entire movement that was established last year. So I think it just immediately kicked off,
I think this is, too, it goes back to, people just having frustrations built up inside of them for so long. And there's finally this community that I think really ultimately did start through social media, because do you really think that Mike Brown would have become such a huge issue if it wasn't for social media? Do you really think anybody would know about Tamir Rice? Do you think anybody would have heard about this kid getting shot in Cleveland if it wasn't for social media? No, I don't.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. This is just unprecedented. I think that, we should utilize it to the fullest as people like us are, And I think that after last year, seeds were planted that are now growing into plants. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it appears. And, we're trying to do that, and it seems like it's catching on. And for me, like, I'm really such a pessimist in the situation. And I see what's on TV, and I'm just like, oh, my gosh, this is what people are saying. This is what people believe. It's like, I have to do more. Like, I have to do more to convey what's happening. Earlier they were sitting here, they were talking on the news earlier, and it was completely ironic. They're still on the news doing this. They're saying, well, the curfew's up in Baltimore. Anybody that's on the streets now is a criminal, and you're breaking the law. They're completely negating the fact that they're standing in the street, reporting this, breaking the law. Like, they overlook that.
Demonizing everybody, but I think at this point it's so obvious that they're, advocating for socio-psychopathy that, even the average folk are looking at the mainstream media like psychopaths right now. Some people. That's being positive, but,
I kind of agree with you. PM, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm just really baffled that people believe what they see on TV. It's crazy. I mean, I've been down on the ground live streaming, and there's been a reporter up in the sky at CBS saying, oh, they're smashing windows down there, and I'm in that exact spot, and nothing's happening. It's crazy.
I tell you what really, like, especially you talking about the Twitter thing earlier, what really, really, really woke me up to the power of Twitter and getting your news from at least that outlet was the situation in Palestine. Is it Palestine, Gaza?
Oh, yeah.
What, last October, November, whatever it is?
I'm not sure. I did a really great Twitter article on that.
Yeah, it was definitely
I had no idea what was going on. Like, I really didn't know anything about Palestine, and then someone said, "Hey, can you retweet this stuff for me? Here's a list of reliable tweeters. Go retweet them." And it just I learned the whole entire story by reading tweets.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was, and I learned how to decipher what was the propaganda tweets and what was the legitimate news story.
Yeah, there's a lot of propaganda tweets with the Palestinian tweeters, and there's a lot of
legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, but you can tell like what's propaganda and what's like the truth.
Right, but at the end of the day, you get this message that like they're telling you on corporate media here with Sean Hannity or Anderson Cooper. Well, there's some people and they fired some rockets and things happened. But in reality, you're getting 500 kids killed.
Yeah,
you get 500 kids killed. Like you're seeing pictures of these
but
children.
They don't tell you that on TV, and they don't show you the pictures of the children on TV. And there were some horrible pictures. I had to not show the ones that are going to give you trauma because there were a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm completely still scarred over it. Like legitimately, it ruined me. I've never been one of these people that looks at like gore and graphic stuff. It's just never been my thing. But I
want people to look. I don't want them to click away. I want them to keep looking. So there's a fine line between showing reality and giving people PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely. But I tell you what, area code
acquired emotion
713. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. Tell us your name and where you're from.
Rusty from Houston, Texas.
Rusty, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. I wish I could say better. Just watching this whole Baltimore thing unfold. A few thoughts on it. I don't like how the police with the curfew are having a group punishment mentality. It reminds me of in kindergarten, if some kid misused a toy, they would punish everybody by taking it away just because there's a few bad apples out there. Everyone's on lockdown. If someone wants to go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show, midnight showing, well, you're SOL because there's a few bad apples. Why don't they deal with those people and address the problem rather than punishing everybody and restricting their movement and mobility.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Like, do my constitutional rights suddenly get suspended because of the actions of people who aren't me that I don't know?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No. It just doesn't seem right to me. I don't like to see people cooped up in their houses by police for a few bad apples. That they could have even caused that problem with not allowing people to get on metro buses and shutting down that terminal when these kids were getting off schools. What teachers have reported on. It just doesn't seem right to punish the whole city of Baltimore for maybe 100, maybe 200 people that went kind of wild. And maybe that's a valid response because they've been protesting out there for a week beforehand, getting no coverage and petitioning, the city council, all these people, and no one gives them the time of day. But as soon as the people do some crazy things, there's solid coverage. There's everything they wanted. They wanted people to be aware of the issues they're facing, and that's what they got out of. That's what seems to have happened because of these rioters. I think people forget our founding fathers also rioted and did a lot worse to the British when they were here. Ted Cruz came out and he said, "Well, America, we need safety. That's our primary concern." That's BS. We need liberty, and we need the police to act in a manner and deal with the bad apples, not punish everyone as a collective.
Well,
that's things they do in North Korea. It seems like they punish the whole family for one person objecting.
Well, see, that's already been happening here, and I think it crept up on people and they didn't realize that it's happened because, okay, let's talk about the official story of 9/11. 19 hijackers, okay, 19 people. And now all of a sudden, for the next 14 years, every American that goes to an airport gets to get groped, they get to get felt, they get to get violated, they get to go to some x-ray machine. 19 people by their official account. That's what happened. 19 people broke this code, and now every single American that goes to the airport. So you talk about a mass level of a few people do something, and then everybody gets punished for it. We've been experiencing this for a long time on many different levels.
I have something to add to this. DARPA, of course, you probably do. It's the agency of government that produces things like drones, remotely controlled weapons of war. Is that not an imminent threat to everything we have, our safety, our everything? It can be controlled from control rooms, and these protests could become bloodbaths or anything like that in the future if they keep working with this. So I think that's an imminent danger that needs to be addressed. It's kind of off topic, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the whole thing needs to be absolutely reined in. But we're about to sit here and wind down for the night. I tell you what, I'm going to go one by one. Cassius, you got any closing thoughts for us tonight?
Yeah. So I think that we should prioritize and focus on the things, solutions, positive things too, and just be aware of every single factor when it comes to accomplishing our goals. Be strategic, so that's what I would say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in tonight, Cassius.
Yeah, of course, man.
Miss PM Beers, give us some of your wisdom before we have to get off the air here tonight.
I guess my biggest wisdom of the day is get rid of your TV. Or your cable or whatever, disconnect it, whatever. I watch documentaries, but
see, my problem with that is I like getting beat up. Like, I enjoy watching it and just laughing at it and just like, oh wow, this is crazy. Like, how are they even saying these things? Like, I enjoy it. Like, I'm just neurotic, I guess. Like, I know it's all a lie. I acknowledge it when I hear it, but I hear it and I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to tell somebody I heard this crazy thing tonight.
Yeah, like beat your kid when they go to a protest. That's what they said on TV today.
That was a big one. That was absolutely a big one. But I tell you what.
Yay, child abuse. I mean, the police commissioner, it's against the law. The police have an obligation to report it to CPS. CPS will take the kid away. But the police commissioner praised this woman for beating their kid on national TV.
That definitely happened. But thank you so much, and hopefully you'll be joining us a lot more.
For sure, it's fun.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to go ahead and jump on one more caller real quick before we leave out. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. How you doing this evening?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. We got just a couple minutes. What would you like to talk about?
One thing that I've noticed, with watching this whole Baltimore stuff unfold is it's almost exactly, it's not exactly, but it's almost exactly like what has happened in Ferguson. I live in St. Louis, and after, the riots actually happened and all that stuff, you couldn't even go through downtown without seeing armored trucks, these military Humvees just sitting on the side of the road. And, it's shit like that makes it screwed up that they're doing this stuff.
Do you think it was more done for intimidation practices on the people that live there? Do you think there was a real threat that needed to happen? What was your experience living that close to Ferguson?
Honestly, I think it was more of a tactic because I actually, went to Ferguson. I think it was before the riots actually happened. And, I was up there, I was protesting with them, and, we're walking down the street and stuff, and out of the blue, we turn the corner and there's just riot police, armored cars, all the shit just sitting there. We weren't being violent in any of this shit, but here they were.
Right. Well, I tell you what, thank you so much for your call. Thank you so much for calling in and giving us your opinion tonight.
No problem.
Area code 713, before we head out, any parting words for us?
Now, just first time kind of listener and caller. I love the show. Any advice would probably buy some gold, silver, or Bitcoin. That's about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in tonight.
Thank you.
Manny, can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. It's just me and you left, buddy.
Well, same here, stuff like that. All I can tell you is basically go after the system. Fight the system. Don't fight the neighborhood. Don't fight the people that have nothing to do with this because they're all in the same boat and stuff like that, That's how we do it in Mexico City. We go after the cops. We go after buildings. We go after the business people. We don't go and torch down our own neighborhoods or hit our own neighbors that are probably worse off than we are, stuff like that. So just do everything with passion, force, but no violence. Because if you get mad, they win. So have a good night.
You too, man. Thank you so much, as always. And so here's what we're left with. We have everybody wanting to point fingers at a situation in Baltimore, which, yes, there's people doing the wrong thing, but everybody's forgetting why this happened. We sat here, I'm guilty of the exact same thing that I'm complaining about right now. We harped on riots and the situation. A young man was killed. He was arrested for having a switchblade, which isn't illegal. He was put into the back of a police van, and his fine was snapped in two. That's what this is about. And there's, 381 of these cases in one way or another so far this year. Maybe some of those are justified. But I tell you what, we'll talk about it on Thursday. Make sure you get Four & Sons' new record, Transients. That is the band that does the opening theme song for the show. The record just dropped today, fourandsons.bandcamp.com, antimedia.org. Thank you so much.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.